How does this work?
Colin, we're in Venice. We're in a parking lot. You're homeless. How did we get here?
It was a short ride. How did I get here? Okay. About 5 years ago, I owned a restaurant, a nice restaurant in Santa Monica. Nice restaurant in Santa Monica. And it was in escrow, actually. I was selling it for $500,000. It was in escrow. I had a buyer, it was in escrow. And I drove a Hummer at the time. But I bought cash. I was doing okay in the world. But then I had about a little annoyance, a little thing called Agenda 21. I actually knew about it previously and was already delving into it. Once I realized what I was dealing with, I thought, wow, this Agenda 21 is something that people might want to take seriously. So I started asking people, do you know about Agenda 21? And to this day, I haven't met one person that knew what Agenda 21 was. Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century. And if you take a look at your watch, we're in year 21 already, and you don't even know what it is. You might want to take a look. But then if you do, you will learn. If you learn what I've learned, you will learn that it's genocide. That's number one. Agenda 21 was authored by the United Nations in 1992. It's a physical document. You can pick it up. It's a little phone book. It's actually yellow, and it's about that thick. And it was authored by the United Nations in 1992. Now, all you got to do first is ask yourself, who is the UN? The UN is not your friend. The UN is not your friend. The UN is a private army in the hands of mega wealthy people, very, very dangerous people. So some very dangerous people wrote Agenda 21. Now, if you walk into City Hall, you will find people in City Hall talking about Agenda 21 and how wonderful it is because it's all sustainable living, etc., etc. If you go up and down the street right now, you'll see evidence of Agenda 21. There's little scooters on every corner. There's bikes, shared bicycles on every corner. Why? What's that all about? Cooling down the planet? Sure. It's Agenda 21. You've already seen the high-rise building, monstrosity, can't you say the word? Monstrosity buildings that they're throwing up, like 4,000 units, 200 square feet. That's the future. That's the future for those that get to have a future, is that you'll live in a pigeonhole, you'll come downstairs, you'll share bicycles, you'll share scooters, because every time you climb on a scooter, you're cooling down the planet. You will never own personal property. Your children will be raised by the state. You'll have a chip in your hand. And if you don't do, you're told they'll turn your chip off. And you get no access to bikes, you get no access to scooters, and you're kicked out of society. If anybody that's in society attempts to help you, they'll be kicked out of society. That's Agenda 21, boys and girls. You might want to take a look at it. If you look for it, you'll find it. Look for the fine print. It's genocide.
What type of, you sound like you have a lot of wealth of experience. What type of background do you have? Experience?
I started out life as a mechanical engineer. I came to the States when I was 22nd of September 1978. It was a Tuesday.
And you're from where?
From Glasgow, Scotland. And I came here in September 78. I was an engineer for a couple of years. And then I quit that and I went off and I produced a musical aside, and then after a very successful musical, and then I had to decide, what do I do now? Do I go back to engineering, or do I pursue the whole craft thing, the Hollywood thing? And I thought, well, I'll just go the Hollywood route. So I didn't go back to engineering. I started digging holes in the ground so that I'm available for auditions in Hollywood. And then I wasn't paying attention, and I ended up with a construction company. So I ended up with a construction company for a few years. And then I thought, well, why am I doing this? I could be an engineer. So I quit that, got into the restaurant business, did that for several years. And then I was always litigious. I was always a very litigious guy anyway. And then this whole Agenda 21 just caused me to start taking things seriously. Once I saw what Agenda 21 was, once I realized it was absolute genocide, it was a complete threat to my exit, a real threat to my life and that of everybody else. I thought that's more important than any restaurant, any car, anything else. I don't have kids, but I have a twin brother that has kids and grandkids. I have two other brothers that have kids. And I tried to bring it to their attention. They didn't want to believe me, so it was all the more need for me to go to bat. So what my background is engineering, construction, and law. And these are all things that come in very handy for the situation I confront now. I could be across the street here building a $6 million house for somebody making $2.5 grand a week. But if I'm over there doing that, I'm not fighting against genocide. I'm not fighting Agenda 21, which means I'm not protecting my life or the life of every child. I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh man, this Agenda 21 is serious, it's genocide. And as soon as I clock out on Friday, I'm going to start fighting genocide. You want to do that? A lot of people in Nazi Germany did that. They went, this whole, thing with the, I'm going to do something about that as soon as I get a day off.
What do you want? What would you want regular folks to know about the homeless that they don't know?
That they're substantially not responsible for the conditions, for the fact that they're homeless. Number one, homelessness is manufactured, homelessness is created, homelessness is Agenda 21. And see, that's the reason I'm here, rather than on a construction site. I'm a very intelligent guy, I'm a smart guy, and I could be over there building, engineering, for some mega millionaire, or I could be applying all that same expertise and wherewithal to dissecting life as we know it. So what I like to do is I like to use I tell people, okay, this is the way you've been led to believe life is. Let's move the camera. And I'll move the camera. And you'll see the same bullshit from the same viewpoint, but it's a different view. It's called a parallax view. A parallax view is when you look from the same focal point, the same source point to the same focal point, yet you see two different images. That's called a parallax view. Well, see, I will give you the parallax view. I already know the lie that you've lived, because I live the same lie. But I can walk you through it now, and I can show you where everything you once believed. It's like we the people. We are we the people. Everybody's heard of we the people. At least I hope you have, and I hope you understand the significance of it. Anyway, we the people, right? It doesn't say we the persons, right? So why is it that person is the second most used word in the English language next to the word time? The reason is because if you get into the legal realm in our world, the word person is part of the big lie. You believe you're a person. You believe I'm a person. We all believe that we are a person. And you're completely wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. You're 100% wrong. And if you learn that and realize it, what's the significance to your life? Paradigm shifting. Paradigm shift. If you ever realize that you're not a person, and I can prove it to you now, if you ever realize that you're not a person, the ramifications of that would be it would shut down the IRS, it would shut down the DMV, it would shut down all police departments, not all law enforcement, but all police departments. It would shut down the entire judicial system, the Department of Justice. It would shut, every attorney would have to resign if you appreciated the significance of the fact that you're not a person. I'm going to tell you what a person is right now. And you can all sit there and nod when I get to you. There's only 5 things that can cause you to be a person. If you're not, I'm going to tell you 5 things right now. If you're not one of these 5 things, you're not a person. And I don't care what you think about that. I don't care how you feel about that. It's the law. You can love the idea. You can hate the idea. It doesn't change the idea. Anyway, nod when I get to you. In order to be a person, you must be a firm, an association, a limited liability company, a co-partnership. Nothing? Corporation? Nothing? Bad news, boys and girls, you're not a person, and that's the law. That's not some crazy Scottish guy telling you, pick up the code book now. Just go to the library, pick up California Criminal Code, California Vehicle Code, North Dakota Criminal Code, New York, Hawaii, I don't care. Every state in the union, pick up your state's vehicle code. Go to the definition section, look for the definition of a driver. A driver is any person who drives or is in actual control of a motor vehicle. A driver is any person who drives. A driver is any person. We already know that a person is a firm, an association, a limited liability company, a co-partnership, or a corporation. So we now know that a driver is a firm. We don't need person in there. If a driver is a person and a person's a corporation, why don't they just tell you that a driver's a corporation? Take person out of the mix. It's a Trojan horse. It's there so that you'll never know that you're not a person. You'll never believe. Even when I tell people they're not a person, they can't let go of the idea that they're a person because it's the lie that they've been led to live their entire life. People think people and persons are the same word. They're not. They're not even the same language. People is person is Greek, people is Latin. Person comes from the word persona. What does persona mean? Mask, actor, lie. People comes from the word populace. What does that mean? It means sentient beings, people, you and I. Two people come together. A populace consists of people. Corporations consist of persons. They made us persons under the guise of making corporations. Corporations used to complain, well, we can't sue human beings. We want the rights to sue just like human beings have. So, okay, why don't we make corporations persons and then they have the rights to sue? But the thing they did was they made everybody a person. They made you a person. They made me a person. Every time you walk into court, that court, I don't care which court you're in, they have no jurisdiction over you until you give them jurisdiction. Let me say that again. They have when you walk into court, they don't have jurisdiction. You must walk into court and essentially say, good morning, Your Honor, I hope you're enjoying your day. Will you please victimize me? You have to ask them to do it. You have to give them consent to do so. And you do it every time you walk into court without realizing that you're doing it. Because we walk into court as people and they treat us like persons. So they're looking at a corporation. You're there as a human being, chalk and cheese. Corporations can't sue human beings and human beings can't sue corporations. So when you walk into court and the judge says to you, how do you plead? If you say not guilty, you just give him jurisdiction. Even though you said no thank you, you still gave him jurisdiction. If you plead guilty, you give him jurisdiction. If you plead no contest, the court does not have jurisdiction. They imply jurisdiction. They have a presumption of jurisdiction. And when you walk into court, they accept implied consent. Now, what's implied consent? That could be a scratch on your nose, and it's in the eye of it could be anything. They don't get consent, they get implied consent. So when you walk in and say, Mr. People versus Fred Bloggs, and Fred Bloggs stands up and says, yes, Your Honor, boom, you just gave him jurisdiction. Just gave him jurisdiction.
Colin, have you ever, you and your vehicle, have you ever applied for affordable housing, or is there none?
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I've had 3 heart attacks in the last 12 months. I've had 3 stents put in here. I'm supposed to be taking 6 medications right now. The last time they evicted me from the street, they took all my meds and took everything. Well, actually, that was the second to last time. The last time, which was more recent, they took everything, including my meds. They left me standing on the street in my bare feet, no shoes, in my bare feet. Now, I had a structure way more substantial than this. They just came with a crane and picked everything up. No due process, no prior notice, no nothing. They came and they said, you get 15 minutes to move everything. Well, in 15 minutes I was able to save things like my cell phone and my solar panel and a couple of little things, and they wiped everything else.
There's no way to live.
They wiped everything else. They took every last thing. It's all by design. It's all part of Agenda 21. It's only recently they allowed people to leave their tents out. They used to walk around saying, that's 6 feet tall, make it 3 feet tall. That's 4 feet tall, make it 2 feet. And I used to get hold of it. I said, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I mean, you have to start asking yourself, I'm just doing my job. If they asked you to shoot me in the head, would you shoot me in the head? I'd like to think you wouldn't, although I know that some of you would. Sometimes you got to draw the line. When your employer tells you to do something that's either illegal or immoral, you're not compelled to do it. So you just tell them and say, no, I can't do that. Why? I said, do you guys become cops because you want to be Starsky and Hutch? Or did you become cops because you want to harass 64-year-old guys that are trying to save children and you won't even let them put a tent up. And every time I try to get shade, you come and tell me I must take the shade down. Every American, every man, woman and child has the right to shelter. It's an inalienable right that we have to shelter. It's not a privilege, it's a right. And nobody can take away your shelter. And you'll find that in the Constitution of the United States of America. Everybody is an inalienable right. Inalienable means it cannot be alienated from you. It can't be taken from you, not even by your God should you have one. It's inalienable. You have the inalienable right to life, liberty, happiness, yeah? So that means you have the inalienable right to travel, yeah? Okay. So if you're taking your grandma to church, or your mom to the market, or your girlfriend to meet her boyfriend, you're in pursuit of life, liberty, and that makes you happy to do those things. So you're in pursuit of life. When you climb into a car and take your grandma to church, that makes you happy. That's a right. Nobody can come along and say, oh, by the way, we're making it a privilege. Driving's a privilege. As I said, if you're taking your grandma to church, your mom to the market, your girlfriend to meet you're not driving, you're traveling in pursuit of liberty. Now, if you're an Uber driver, cab driver, bus driver, truck driver, cop, paramedic, now you're driving because now you're acting in commerce. Every highway and byway in this nation was built for our unbridled use by our servants. And then these people came along about 100 years ago and they started to exploit the very same highways for financial gain. You know, truck drivers, delivery guys, and then, you know, cars were hand-built back when they first had cars, so you had to be very wealthy to have a car. So they started a limousine company, and then they started a taxi cab company. So now they're exploiting the highway for financial gain. That's not what you're doing, that's not what I'm doing. You know, so if they're going to exploit the highways, they're going to create potholes, well, maybe they should pay for the restoration, you know. So, and then plus you've got to make sure that they're safe. You know, if grandma's trundling down the highway and, you know, in her Beverly Hills Billy truck going to church, she wants to make sure that the 16-wheeler that's making money exploiting the highway doesn't try and make more money by not getting his brakes maintained and not. So you have to regulate those people. They become drivers. So they need licenses, registration and insurance. But you don't, I don't, nobody does. And that's the law. That's the law. You'll find that anytime you went looking for it, in any state of the union. The cops would find out what a driver was if they ever looked at the vehicle code. If they ever looked at the definition of the word driver, they would learn what it is. And it would blow their minds to learn that nobody is a driver. There's very few drivers out there. 99% of the people that get tickets are not drivers. But here's the sad statistic. 95% of all people that get a traffic ticket, they pay it uncontested because it's too much hassle to contest it. You don't have to contest it. You just write you don't have to go to court. You just write to the court and say, I'm not a driver. And they have to then prove tangibly, on or for the record, that you're a firm, an association, a limited liability company, a co-partnership, and a corporation. There'll be a cold day in hell before they can do that in any court in this country.
Colin, if you could go back in your life and change something, what would it be?
The fact that the word person came into existence. If I could only go back in my life, I can only go back to 1956. So in 1956, I would undo the unbelievable harm that had already been done in 1933. When the country was bankrupted in 1933. They bankrupted this country and didn't tell anybody. So then they said, well, what we'll do is we'll just take the children, as moving forward. So they gave everybody social security numbers. They bankrupted the country. That's when they started income taxes. 1%, 2%, supposedly to cover the cost of the war, but then it just got more and more and more. But anyway, the whole idea of income taxes. Let's talk about income taxes. All income taxes must either be voluntary, and if they're not voluntary, they're unconstitutional. The only way you can impose an income tax on an American is if we all paid the same tax. It's called an apportioned tax. We'd all have to pay an apportioned tax before income taxes can become legitimate relative to the Constitution. Anything outside of that is unconstitutional. The taxes that people pay today are not apportioned, therefore it's theft. It's absolute theft. This might sound insane, I don't care. The thing that makes it unbelievable is the fact that it's true.
What's your future look like?
Excellent. I mean, my personal future, because I will prevail. I mean, I'm just going to keep trying to awaken people, and the people are waking up. more and more people are waking up. When I say my future is going to get better, that's because I believe that, see, I'm fatally optimistic, which is a bit of a misnomer, but I really am. I'm fatally optimistic, and I believe that that good will prevail over evil, and it's going to get better for everybody. And so I've been outside of my own, but I haven't got the memo yet. So I'm staying exactly where I am, and I'm doing what I'm doing until I get the memo. And when I get to the memo, I'm going to go back to a wonderful life, dramatically different. You will never go back to your old normal, and that's not a bad thing. Anybody that tries to go back to their old normal, they're not going to be able to do it, because half of the normal was a lie. When by the time you come out of this, the lie's going to be exposed, the lie's going to be eliminated, and there's going to be a new paradigm. We're going to care about one another for a change. Money is not going to be an issue. We're not going to be paying income taxes. Income taxes are going to be gone. They're going to be gone. Income taxes that anybody had paid previously was theft. They were stolen. Those income taxes will be given back. It's actually happening. You just haven't heard about it because the mainstream media will not tell you anything. If you want to know what's going on in the world, listen to me or turn off your television. As a minimum, turn off your... If you want to know anything, as a minimum, turn off your TV. The one thing you need to understand, I'm going to give you a sad, scary statistic. 65% of all Americans get all the news they need from the mainstream, from MSNBC, CNN, NBC, etc., etc. 65% get all the news they need from NBC. Here's another statistic. All media has been controlled by the CIA with Operation Mockingbird since 1947, and you can Google that. Don't believe a word I tell you. Do not believe a word that anybody tells you. Do your own research. Do your own research and believe only you. But do the research. Because that's what I do. I do the research and I believe me. And I come away with unbelievable stuff, unfortunately. But it's believable. And if you do your own research, you'll find it's believable. Income taxes, lies. The entire judicial system, lies. Birth certificates, lies. Every time you register a child's name in a birth registry, regis means regis, means regal, means royal, means guess what? The Crown of London. The Crown of London comes along, they take the birth registry, they copyright every name in that birth registry. So they now own your name, because your mom put your name into a birth registry. If you look at your birth certificate, your mom's name is on there as informant. Because she informed on you when you were born. She told them your name and your date of birth, and that's all they care about. They take it away, it becomes a corporation, you get it back on your birth certificate, your driver's license, your name is capitalized. That is not your name. That's the capitalized corporation. So you walk through life with everything in your wallet identifies a corporation. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They want to kill you. Agenda 21. All they care about is your taxability until you die. That's why they don't need your name. They need the corporate name. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they're taking money out of your pocket every day until you die. That's the lie, and that's the lie that is being exposed right now. And once it changes, life will be wonderful, and I can't wait.
Colin, it's been a pleasure to see you.
It's been a pleasure too, brother.
Really appreciate hearing you.
I just want to get the word out there, brother. I said, the more people that believe me, and the sooner they believe me, we the people, we can end this today. We can do better than any politician. We can do better. All that anybody has to do is, and I've tried campaigns for several years. On the 4th of July, everywhere, you don't have to march on Washington. On the 4th of July, have a picnic at your local DMV. Everybody over to the DMV, take a band over there, sing patriotic songs. And while you're there, take this thing out of your pocket. Cut the name and number off. Leave them in the parking lot. Take everything else. This is the most fraudulent document in the history of humanity. This implies that this corporation, which is capitalized, this implies that this is me. This corporation is not me. Why does this corporation have my face? Corporations don't have faces. Corporate fictions don't have hair color, eye color, signature, thumbprint. Only human beings have that. So they're implying that this corporation is this human being. So if I don't appear in court because I'm not a corporation, they tell the cops to come and get me. They can't say, what does this corporation look like? And he doesn't look like a piece of paper. He looks like me, and he's got the same colour hair as me, and the same colour eyes as me, and he's got my thumbprint, and he's got my signature, and he's got my date of birth. The only problem is he doesn't exist. He's a piece of paper. So this is the most fraudulent document ever. This implies that people are persons. If they didn't generate this document, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Thank you, Colin.